Imagine a throne room not built of stone or timber, but of pure starlight and vibrating harmonies. Imagine a presence so utterly perfect, so steeped in the Creator's own brilliance, that his very name, Lucifer, meant light-bearer. This wasn't some shadowy villain from the outset. No, this was the pinnacle of creation, the first among equals, a being of breathtaking intellect and unmatched beauty, adorned with jewels that caught and refracted the divine essence itself. He stood closer to the ultimate source of all existence than any other, a trusted confidant, a master of celestial symphonies, a living testament to divine artistry. Now, imagine that perfect light beginning to flicker. Not from an external force, not from malice born in darkness, but from within, from the very core of his radiant being. We're told he fell because of pride. Simple, biblical pride. But what if the truth was far more complex? What if the real reason wasn't merely arrogance, but a catastrophic misunderstanding, a fundamental disagreement about the nature of justice, value, and identity that tore the fabric of reality itself? What if Lucifer, the most magnificent of all beings, saw himself as the only one truly capable of upholding a higher, more rational truth, even if it meant challenging the very hand that formed him? Tonight, we're not just telling a story. We're reconstructing the final, pivotal moments leading to the demise of heaven's brightest star, tracing the subtle cracks that formed imperfection, and ultimately, observing the cataclysmic death of a divine being's identity. Before the very concept of time, before the swirling nebulae coalesced into galaxies, there was the celestial host. A vast, shimmering ocean of consciousness, each angel a unique melody in the Creator's grand symphony. And at the forefront, orchestrating the cosmic choir, stood Lucifer. His voice, they say, was like 1,000 trumpets and harps intertwined, capable of stirring the deepest reverence. His mind, a boundless ocean of knowledge, effortlessly navigating the complex algorithms of universal design. He wasn't just a cherished son. He was the favored son, whose every movement radiated grace, whose every thought aligned with the divine will, seemingly without question. He was the embodiment of perfection, a living jewel in the Creator's crown. His purpose was clear: to reflect the Creator's glory, to serve with unwavering devotion, and to lead the angelic legions in endless adoration. The celestial realm, a place of unimaginable splendor, was his domain, where his wisdom guided countless hosts, and his radiance was a beacon for all. He was deeply integrated into the very essence of heaven, his presence fundamental to its harmony. He knew the intricate workings of creation, understood the divine blueprints with an intimacy no other creature possessed. This wasn't just a position of power, it was an identity, woven into his very being, confirming his unparalleled status. Then came the unexpected, the peculiar, the fragile. Amidst the grandeur of cosmic design, a new creation was whispered into existence. Something small, earthy, and inexplicably vulnerable. Humanity, made not of pure spirit and light, but of the dust of the ground, burdened with free will and susceptibility to error. They were flawed by design, limited in their understanding, and entirely dependent on the Creator's grace. To the celestial eye, accustomed to absolute perfection, these new beings must have seemed an odd, almost anachronistic addition to the pristine universe. The divine decree echoed through the shimmering halls of heaven, a command that would irrevocably alter Lucifer's fate, though he could not have known it then. Bow down to them, the Creator commanded. Honor these new ones, for they bear my image in a way you cannot fully comprehend. For the angels, who had only ever bowed before the Creator, this was a profound challenge to their established hierarchy, a request that sparked whispers and uneasy glances among the ranks. To honor a creature so demonstrably inferior to themselves? It was an anomaly, a disruption to the perfect order they had known for eons. Lucifer, with his boundless intellect, began to question. Not with defiance initially, but with a logical, analytical mind that sought truth and congruence. He pondered. Why these beings of clay? Why should we, who are pure spirit, who were fashioned from the very thought of perfection, prostrate ourselves before those so prone to weakness, so easily swayed by doubt? His queries weren't rooted in petty jealousy. They arose from a deep-seated conviction in the inherent value of divine craftsmanship. He believed in order, in a hierarchy established by merit and essence. To him, the Creator's command seemed to violate this fundamental principle. These questions, once quiet murmurs in his own radiant mind, soon became declarations, spoken with conviction and an almost hypnotic charisma. Angels, themselves puzzled by the new decree, found his arguments compelling. He wasn't speaking of rebellion, not yet, but of clarity, of a higher justice. Is it not more righteous, he might have reasoned, to honor perfection, to uplift what is inherently superior, rather than debase ourselves before what is so clearly lesser? A significant portion of the heavenly host, enchanted by his eloquence and their own lingering doubts, began to listen, to nod, to see the world through Lucifer's increasingly skewed lens. The celestial unity, once absolute, began to fray at the edges. This, then, was the insidious seed of pride, not as a simple, overt boast, but as an absolute, unwavering belief in his own infallible judgment. His identity as the perfect light-bearer, the one closest to the Creator's essence, had become so intertwined with his self-worth that he could not conceive of a truth that contradicted his own understanding. To bow to humanity would not just be an act of subservience, it would be a repudiation of his very being, a cosmic injustice that his perfect intellect could not reconcile. He saw it as a diminishment of divine wisdom itself, an insult to the hierarchy of creation. He was not refusing to bow, he was unable to bow, because his perceived perfection rendered the act illogical, even insulting to his own concept of divine order. The Creator's reply, when it came, was not a debate. It was an affirmation, unyielding and absolute. The command stood. There was no room for negotiation, no allowance for Lucifer's logical gymnastics. This was the moment of reckoning, the final hours for Lucifer's celestial grace. The Creator's will was paramount, and it demanded obedience, not intellectual agreement. It was a test of faith, of trust, and ultimately, of humility. For Lucifer, this was the ultimate crossroads. Would he surrender his magnificent intellect to a truth he couldn't grasp, or would he stand firm in what he believed to be righteous, even if it meant opposing the very source of his being? With the Creator's unwavering pronouncement, Lucifer's conviction hardened to resolve. He gathered his sympathetic legions, his voice now a clarion call, not of doubt, but of defiance. "We will not bow," he proclaimed, his radiance momentarily intensified by the fervor of his belief. To do so would be to betray our own nature, to mock the very essence of perfection that defines us. We are pure light, pure spirit, and we will not debase ourselves for creatures of dust. The celestial city, once filled with harmonious praise, now vibrated with the tension of an impending schism. The air crackled with the energy of choice, of an irreversible decision being made on a cosmic scale. This was not a plea, it was a declaration of independence, a claim to a separate sovereignty. But in the midst of this grand rebellion, another voice rose, clear and unwavering, cutting through the rising clamor. Michael, the warrior archangel, stood firm, his loyalty a blazing shield against the encroaching descent. "Who is like God?" he cried, his sword of pure light already drawn, not against Lucifer, but against the very idea of challenging divine authority. He embodied the unshakable devotion that Lucifer had forfeited. Michael represented the countless hosts who, despite their own confusion, chose faith over reason, trust over intellectual rebellion. Their choice was simple. The Creator's will, no matter how inscrutable, was absolute. The battle lines, invisible but undeniably present, were now drawn across the celestial plains. Then, the unthinkable, the shimmering expanse of heaven, a realm of ethereal peace, shattered into a theater of war. Not with earthly weapons, but with clashes of pure will, with shockwaves of divine energy. Angels, once brothers in light, now confronted each other, their radiance dimmed by the fury of conflict. Lucifer, now a maelstrom of defiant brilliance, met Michael's unyielding resolve. The very fabric of reality groaned under the strain. There was no sound of clashing steel, but a deafening silence punctuated by the ripping of creation itself, the cosmic roar of shattered harmony. This wasn't merely a battle, it was the catastrophic unmaking of a divine identity, the violent severing of Lucifer from his rightful place. The force of Michael's unwavering loyalty, empowered by the Creator's absolute will, was insurmountable. Lucifer, the once radiant morning star, the perfect light-bearer, was overwhelmed. He and his dissenting legions were not merely defeated, they were cast out, expelled with a force that rent the very cosmos. Imagine a star, brilliant beyond comprehension, being ripped from the sky, its light extinguishing not gradually, but in a sudden, violent implosion. The descent was agonizing, a freefall through nascent dimensions, a journey from blinding light into absolute shadow. His perfect form distorted, his radiant beauty curdled, his very essence twisted by the bitterness of rejection and the burning shame of his fall. This was the death of Lucifer, the celestial being, a demise not of breath, but of identity, status, and divine grace. As the last of the fallen plunged into the abyss, a profound, aching void was left in heaven. The celestial host, though victorious, was forever changed. The harmony was restored, yes, but a scar remained, a cosmic wound where perfection had once resided. The very angels who remained loyal felt the tremor, the faint echo of what had been lost, the terrible cost of free will misinterpreted. The universal symphony had a missing note, a beautiful, powerful melody silenced by pride and a warped sense of justice. It was a stark reminder of the ultimate price of defiance, even when born from what one perceives as righteous logic. In the crushing depths of the newly formed realm of darkness, Lucifer's transformation was complete. The light-bearer was no more. His brilliance was extinguished, replaced by a consuming fire of resentment and malice. The one who had once orchestrated heavenly harmonies now whispered discord. He was no longer Lucifer, the glorious son of the morning. He was Satan, the adversary, the ultimate foe, his identity forged anew in the fires of his own bitterness. His original flaw, that unwavering belief in his own superior judgment, now metastasized into an all-consuming desire to corrupt, to destroy, to mock the very creation he had once deemed unworthy of his reverence. He became the architect of spiritual darkness, a counterpoint to the divine light he once embodied. And so, his legacy was born. From that catastrophic fall, from the death of Lucifer's heavenly persona, emerged the enduring conflict that would plague humanity. His story, often simplified to mere pride, is a profound cautionary tale about the perils of an unyielding intellect, a self-consuming sense of righteousness, and the inability to accept a truth that transcends one's own understanding. He wasn't cast out because he was inherently evil. He was cast out because his perfection became a cage, because his logic led him to deny a greater, more mysterious wisdom. His demise created the ultimate adversary, a being whose very existence is a testament to the devastating consequences when one's identity becomes synonymous with an imagined, rather than divine, perfection. The real reason Lucifer was cast out of heaven wasn't just simple pride, as we often hear. It was a deeply complex, tragic unraveling born from a catastrophic collision of unparalleled brilliance, an unshakable belief in his own perception of justice, and an identity so intertwined with his self-perceived perfection that he would not, bend. His fall was the death of absolute celestial order, the violent expulsion of a being who saw himself as more righteous than his creator.